Hey folks, welcome to Business Computing Weekly. This is episode number 408, and it is recorded June the 29th, 2013 with co-host Jack McLean. We want to thank you so much for watching our program and offering your support on YouTube and our audio podcast available on iTunes, Podomatic, and other directories, as well as Stitcher Radio. We are going to have some great topics for you today. We're going to be talking about the BlackBerry 10, why the shipments are off on that, how failed backups are really affecting the small to mid-sized businesses. Intel is really pleased with what they're seeing from Haswell. We're going to talk a little bit about Skype for Business, and we've got a hardware pick of the week. All that and a whole lot more in this week's edition of Business Computing Weekly. We are sponsored by Frugal Brothers Software, which is the website is frugalbrothers.com, and also GFI Software. Just wanted to take a moment to mention to you GFI Cloud. GFI Cloud now makes it easier than ever for your company, for your business, to deploy patch management, both on your local network and on remote machines, as well as antivirus solution, which is the Viper antivirus product, and also network monitoring. So now you can monitor, critical events and log files through the cloud. All this through the cloud, and this is inexpensive as $1 per month per user. So $12 a year. I mean, that's less than buying a cup of coffee once a month, and you can have a complete hosted in the cloud solution. No on-premise software to install or configure. It's all done for you by the good folks at GFI. To learn more, go to frugalbrothers.com. Right on the home page, on the left side of the web page, you'll see GFI Cloud. Got a button you can just push there for more information. And we're going to go ahead and bring Jack McLean on, my co-host. Jack, how are you today?
I'm doing great.
And you were telling me your office is like a server room right now, about 80 degrees.
It's about, let's see, it's about 82 degrees down here right now. It's about 95 outside, so yeah, it gets kind of warm down here in the office.
Well,
I
right.
don't know if you can tell, but I've been doing some spring cleaning back here too. So.
I do notice it's a little bit bare back and through there. Okay.
Finally settled down, got organized, and I got some pickups on these machines that have been sitting back here for about 3 weeks, so.
So you got actually customers that's picked up their stuff and
finally picked up their stuff,
moving that out of there.
Yep.
I just got done spending almost $100 for ink the other day. Can you believe that? I've got an Epson Workforce 635 printer.
I can believe it.
And a lot of people say, well, being the frugal tech, you should be buying the less expensive replacement inks and that kind of thing. I tell you, I have had a real bad experience with that.
It's funny you should say that. I've talked to several people that have had bad experiences with that.
Because I had a Epson Workforce 600 series before this one, and I thought I would save money, and I bought replacement ink cartridges from a supposedly reliable company, and within days of installing those cartridges, that printer was toast.
Yep.
It messed it up so bad I couldn't use that printer anymore, and I swore never again would I buy cheap ink.
I do the break fix. I'm the break fix guy at my gym, and they didn't know until just a few years ago that that's what I did for a living. And after they knew, now I'm their tech guy. And a while back, now take in mind I don't do printers, okay? But people think because I'm a computer tech, anything that has a button, power button, and a cord that I can fix it, right? So They called me in with their printer issue, and what it was, they had ordered these refurb printer cartridges. And now take in mind they have this huge industrial strength, it's about a $2,000 or $3,000 printer they got, and they had ordered these refurb ink cartridges, trying to save a few bucks because they are brutally expensive, and they go through these probably about once a month. And yeah, like you said, basically it turned the printer into toast. It took it about a week, and it completely screwed the printer up. So the next thing they did, they bought these refills that you do it yourself. and that was the biggest mess. I talked to the owner, and he said he would never attempt that again. It was the biggest mess he'd ever seen.
Oh,
So,
yeah, no doubt about it. One other thing I was going to mention, the Logitech C930E is now shipping. And there's been, that I know of, 2 reviews on YouTube of it, but in my opinion, they're not very good reviews from what I've seen so far. So I'm waiting now, because I'm trying to justify in my mind, do I buy a HD camera, camcorder to use for the show, recording the show and YouTube videos, or will this be a really good investment because of the way it can digitally zoom, the 1080p, all these kind of things? And I'd really want to see somebody put one of these through its paces before I shell out the cash for one.
right.
And I can't wait to see a really, really good review of the C930E come out there on YouTube so I can kind of make up my mind. What I've seen so far, these are folks that really don't understand how to get optimal performance out of a webcam. You can tell because one of them actually recorded his video with it, and he recorded it using the built-in YouTube recorder rather than, something like QuickTime or something like that.
Right.
So I want to see somebody do a really good review, and then I kind of make up my mind.
Now, there'll be some out there. Just give it a little time.
Yeah, I figure that's exactly what will happen. There'll be some that will show up, and that will be, what's gonna go happen. Jack, I think we'll go ahead and move on to our first topic of the day here, and right here it is: BlackBerries. The BlackBerry 10 shipments fall short of targets, and I don't really think that there's a big surprise there. So here's the story on this. Wall Street estimated they were going to ship like 3.3 million BlackBerry 10s, and instead it was about 2.7 million units that shipped. So that's quite a big difference right there. But and to be clear, when they say ship, we're talking about the number of machines that were put into distribution into the channel. They were sent to retailers and that kind of thing, not necessarily devices that's been activated and sold to consumers. And this just goes to show how far, I've been saying all along, number one, I can't believe BlackBerry's still alive. I'll give them credit for trying to hang in there. No, I'm serious.
No, they're trying. They are trying.
They really missed the boat a long time ago. They waited too long. I think the new BlackBerry operating system is too little, too late.
Right.
And they've totally missed the mark. It is, by all definitions of the word, an Android and iOS world out there now. And I think that, I've heard rumors that BlackBerry was actually considering using the Windows Phone 8 operating system. What do you think about that?
I think BlackBerry has a lot of really good ideas, really creative ideas with their operating system, but I just agree with you. It's too little, too late. This is stuff they should have implemented 4 or 5 years ago minimum, and I think now they've just let the competition. I think they rested on their laurels far too long, and I think they let the competition just overtake them. And I think like you said, too little, too late. And what I would like to see is, and honestly, I think what's going to happen, I think BlackBerry is going to die off. I think probably within the next couple of years, you're going to see what is BlackBerry now being absorbed by Google, being absorbed by iOS, the new features that they introduced that I really like. I think you're going to see the big two absorb those features, and I think you're just going to see BlackBerry fade away.
Well, here's another interesting part about this. Is an article in Fox Business, and here's another thing. Their shares were, after this announcement, their shares fell more than 22% in pre-market trades on Friday. Their shares are already at an all-time low. Mm-hmm. So there's not much less there. If I own, God bless anybody that still owns stock in BlackBerry, in my opinion.
I don't think there's many of them.
I really don't know. I haven't researched that. I can't answer that intelligently. But what I can say, because we heard recently how Nokia. So, yeah, Nokia, depending on where you live, that's how it's pronounced. There was speculation that Microsoft was going to purchase Nokia. and have their own phone, a Microsoft phone, because they're not happy. Microsoft's not really happy with the where they're going with Windows Phone 8. The adoption of Windows Phone, and so I think they're somewhat pleased with Surface. And I guess Microsoft probably feels that, maybe they should have more control of the hardware. That apparently Steve Ballmer and Stephen Elop, the president of Nokia, who by the way is a former Microsoftie, they got into it. I guess they had a falling out during informal negotiations and called the whole thing off. So I'm not sure what the story is on that. I just thought that was kind of interesting.
I think if they did, I think that would be the way to do it. Wouldn't that be the Apple way of doing things? You have control over the hardware.
Well, see, this is a thing. Yeah, that's a very interesting point to bring up, because you remember how the big dispute between Bill Gates and Steve Jobs was always the whole walled garden thing. Bill Gates hated the fact that Apple controlled the hardware and the software, and he believed that you should let independent companies make the hardware and they stick to software. Now Microsoft's singing a different tune.
Isn't that amazing?
Isn't that interesting? When they've seen how fantastic it's worked out for Apple, now they're going, man, maybe we were wrong, because you can't always depend on your partners to come out with really good hardware that will make your software shine. You do have to have that. You do have to have that control.
You have to have some level of control, some level of quality control there in place. And I think that's, that's a big problem with other operating systems. I won't, go into any details in particular, but when you have an operating system and you say, okay, you can put it on whatever, and if someone puts it on a garbage device, it's going to make, no matter how good your product is, it's going to make it look bad. And I think you're right. I think they're looking at Apple and saying, hey, this whole walled garden thing, maybe that's the way to go. Maybe that's the right approach. So
kind of strange. Moving along, this comes out of IT Business Edge. Employee-owned computer programs diving into murky waters. See, here's the thing. For years, if you went to work, say for an auto dealership as a mechanic, they expect you to bring your own tools. Of course, employers expect you to furnish your own transportation in this day and age. They also now are beginning to, some companies are beginning to expect you to bring your own computer to work with you. This is all a cost-cutting attempt, but it's also a reaction. It's also a reaction to people wanting to use their favorite technology at work. So if I like, let's say Ubuntu, I want to bring that. I want to work on Ubuntu all day. I don't want to use Windows. And I think so. Companies are trying to make people happy, but there's real genuine concern here. So there's an outfit called Gartner, and Gartner polled like 530 or just under 530, like 528 IT managers in companies with more than 500 employees. Okay, so this was in the last quarter, and a good number of these companies are or in the stages of planning to implement policies for their employees to bring their hardware to work. Okay. Where it gets murky is the separation of company data from personal stuff. And what happens when an employee leaves and quits? How do we wipe our data off of there? How do we enforce our security policies on somebody else's computer? What are we responsible for when they leave? This is actually a very serious thing. And you know what? I know that because we have a number of listeners that are small businesses out there. Certainly the prospect of their employees bringing their own phones, laptops, ultrabooks, tablets to work is something of keen interest to them. So there's got to be a policy in place. There just does. You have to have these policies in place. Companies like Citrix, they've adopted a bring your own computer program. And one of the things companies do is they will offer a stipend sometimes towards the purchase of a computer. And if you quit or leave before a certain length of time, then the computer is theirs, and then after a certain period of time, it's yours.
I think this is like the ultimate case of taking, BYOD to the extreme. I don't personally. I don't think it's a good idea. If I ran a corporation, or if I ran a company, with say 10 or more employees, I would not want them mixing uh, uh, company data with their own personal data on their own personal machines. I wouldn't, especially if there's anything in there security related, any personal information with clients. When you start mixing that with your own personal data, I mean, that's a disaster. In my opinion, that's a disaster waiting to happen. And I don't think it's a good idea at all. If someone wants to use their own personal phone for business, that's one thing. But when you start talking about computer and storing massive amount of client data on a system that you also use for your personal use, I think that's I don't even do that here at my office. This is my small business, and I have one machine set up over here for this is strictly for customer data and my business, and then I have my own personal machine, which is my iMac, and I don't mix the two. I don't believe in doing that. I think you should keep them separate.
Well, one thing about it is if you're going to, because part of this is about saving money.
Right. Well, it always is.
It
right.
always is, right?
Right.
Part of the problem is you got people out there that may bring in a laptop, let's say that runs Vista.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Vista doesn't support virtualized desktops, so that's going to be a problem. They have to be able to run professional level software on there. I think kind of a smart balance there is maybe do something like this. And there are companies that do this. They'll have a list of machines that you can purchase that will be acceptable.
Right.
And you can only pick something like that. Or now the other thing is you've got people out there, like Citrix says, okay, here's $2,100 stipend to buy a computer.
Mm-hmm.
Buy Mac, buy Windows, whatever you want to do. If it costs more than what the stipend is, you got to kick in the difference. So you've got people out there go, hey, I'd like to game on this thing when I'm done with work. So I want a gaming laptop. It's going to run, $3,000.
Right. They can kick in the extra money if they want to do that.
Okay, fine, but you're going to spend the extra $900 yourself to get it.
Don't get me wrong. I think it could be done. I mean, for instance, I think on the machine, whatever it is, a Mac or a PC, whatever the given machine is, say you have a laptop that the person wants to use for work and their personal life, you could have one account for personal use, and then you could have a separate account for your business. And I think under those circumstances, you could have you could have an account that was completely locked down and much more secure than what their personal account is. That would be, I think, the best way to do it if you're going to implement that type of thing. But still, I don't feel comfortable with it. You're talking about it's all about saving money, and you're right. At the end of the day, it's all about businesses saving money, and it is. But how much is it going to cost you when someone leaves their laptop open and someone accesses 5,000?
Well, over the last 5 years, a lot of companies have froze their spending on IT. Right. You're a new hire coming to work for a company. Now they want to hand you a 5-year-old Lenovo with XP on it.
Right.
And times have moved on. These companies don't want to spend the money on it. So they're coming up with policies, good, bad, or indifferent. I guess what I would recommend, I like the stipend idea, but you're going to have to find some way to compensate an employee for bringing his own equipment, in my opinion.
Right.
And then you got to, as I said, you got to deal with issues such as security.
It's a security nightmare.
Oh, and I'll just kind of like toot GFI's horn a little bit with their web monitor product. You can actually remotely administer policy to those users that are working from home or out on the road. You can do that through group policy. You can. Right. There's a way to do that. Because I tell you, because I get calls like that all the time. We're more interested now. We're just as interested in the ability to remotely handle patch management and antivirus on our mobile workforce and our at-home users as we are the LAN here at the office. It's all very, very important to them because of mobility out there. I guess at the end of the day, this is going to be a growing trend. It's going to be interesting to see how companies handle it, especially when they let somebody go. how they're going. Okay, this is my laptop. Yes, it has company data on it. You can't. I just see some real ugliness there potentially. I don't know if it's worth the savings or not. Just the way I look at it, you know. Okay, I've got to bring up this story next. I just got to get a kick. Number one, I got a kick out of the title, but for Microsoft, it's Haswell that ends well. And we talked about this. Jack and I did, I think in episode 405, we talked about the Haswell processors. And here's the interesting thing. This has turned out to be a really, really good deal for Intel. It's doing exactly what they hoped it would do. You know, here's the problem. Intel has been challenged by, cheaper processors from competitors out there in the tablet space and in the looking at in the Ultrabook market. They were looking to lose share because there's been a lot of pressure to increase battery life on mobile devices, especially Ultrabooks and that kind of thing. And so Intel's gotten almost an insane level of engineering going on they just got this huge drive to ramp up battery life, up, get it up there to make these things. I mean, here's the deal. You're losing business to tablets. Okay. They were losing business to tablets. Intel doesn't really command a presence in the phone business or the tablet business. They want to sell Ultrabooks. And so, but the thing is, of course, Ultrabooks and laptops didn't get the battery life like a tablet would. This is one of the reasons people said, hey, I'm going to grab a tablet and use it all day long because I can go 9, 10, 11 hours on a charge on my tablet. I can't do that on Ultrabook. I get 3-4 hours tops and then I got to recharge. Now with Haswell, now people are reporting times of going 10 hours or better on an Ultrabook. Well, if I can choose between an Ultrabook or a tablet, I'm going to take the Ultrabook every time. Me personally.
Right.
And so this might be a way, and we mentioned that the Haswell might be a way for Intel to save its PC business, and it's looking like that very thing is happening right now. They're doing a whole lot better job with it. You know, because, you know, obviously, like, you know, the MacBook Air just moved to Haswell.
Right.
Okay. And of course, and by the way, it runs parallels brilliantly, can run Windows 7, Windows 8 in parallels on a MacBook Air brilliantly.
Right.
And
Right
you're
now,
still getting you're still getting the great
Right.
battery life.
I think we both agree that right now the MacBook Air is the Ultrabook to beat. And when they went to Haswell, I mean, the battery life went up to, what is it, 12 or 13 hours now?
Yeah, it's something crazy high. Yeah.
Like 12 hours. Now that understand, I mean, for the people out there that you know have read about this testing, that's a generic test that they do. Okay, so real world use, you know, your mileage may vary, but regardless, they have bumped the battery life up significantly, and not by 10 or 15%, but by hours. We're talking about here.
Oh yeah, it's a huge amount.
It's a very significant bump up in battery life. And like you said, I mean, if I'm given the option of an Ultrabook if I have an Ultrabook with a 10 to 12 hour battery life versus a tablet, I'm going to choose the Ultrabook every time.
It's a no-brainer, isn't it?
It is. It really is a no-brainer.
There's people reporting longer than 12-hour battery life on their MacBook Airs.
Oh, I don't doubt it, because like I said, your mileage may vary, and if you have one person using a couple of browsers and he's got 12 to 15 tabs open and he's got a spreadsheet open and he's got, you know, Skype opened up, and then you have another person, all they're doing is taking notes and maybe light web surfing.
Wasn't that the purpose of the remember the regular Surface, not the Pro, but the Surface? That runs an ARM processor in RT, Windows 8 RT. Or I'm sorry, let's just call it Windows RT.
RT.
Wasn't the purpose of RT to run on low-powered ARM processors for great battery life?
Well, there's a lot of factors that go into that. You and I talked. We've had extensive conversations about the RT.
Okay, but isn't one of the end game behind RT was to run on a ARM processor?
Right.
And the reason you want to use an ARM processor is for battery life.
Right.
Because of its low power.
Well, now
Well, here's what, I guess, let me tell you what I'm driving at. With a Haswell, What's the point of RT anymore?
There is no point. That's the whole thing. There is no point in it with
Not that anybody liked it
oh
anyway.
no.
I've not
But
heard anything all that great about RT.
right, but with Haswell, I mean, you're seeing what I think you're seeing just a little bit of what can be done with it in the MacBook Air. I think you're seeing an example of what can be done with it. Not all your how do I want to word this? I guess what I'm saying is not all of your ultrabooks or not all of your PCs that are going to be running Haswell are going to be your, $1,200, $1,300, $1,500 MacBook Airs. Eventually, this is going to trickle down into the mid-range market, and it's going to become,
Oh yeah.
it's going to blur that line, is what I'm saying, between the tablet users are going to have a harder time justifying a tablet over an ultrabook.
No,
or
this is
even
going to end up in the $600 to $900.
six to 900, exactly.
Yeah.
Your mid range PCs is where this is going to end up. Now, it's not going to trickle down into the lower end. It's just not, because the Haswell processor, it's just not a lower end product. But I'd say your mid range, like you said, 650 or so to $900 PC market is where you're going to see this end up. And then, like I said, you're going to have a hard time finding people, a reason to justify that tablet, because up until now, the main reason to justify that tablet was battery life. That was it. That
was it. And that was the whole purpose behind RT. Hey, look, we can run it on an ARM processor, which will be cheaper and get a lot better battery life. Well, I don't know about cost per se, but I can tell you that if battery life was the end game, there's no reason for RT to exist anymore. Microsoft is foolish for keeping it on the market. Nobody wants it. Nobody's clamoring for RT. Nobody. Oh, I guarantee you, somebody will post a comment in.
They're an ARM fan.
Yeah. Well, RT's great, wonderful, and I'm stupid, and I don't know what to. Oh yeah, well I think the numbers don't lie. They ain't exactly flying off the shelf.
Right. Let's wait another year and see what you hear about RT.
You won't.
Yeah, you won't.
I make a prediction a year from now it'll be a dead part number.
I agree.
It'll be strictly the Windows 8 Pro, and that's really it. But I'm glad that Intel has focused so much on battery life.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really tickled about that. I think this was a smart move. And here's the thing. Intel's not going to stop at this point. They're going to keep working on the battery life. So what's AMD up to? I haven't really focused much on AMD in the market space, other than our hardware pick of the week, by the way, has an AMD processor. We'll get to that here in a few minutes. But AMD is not really being bantered back and forth. It's pretty much Intel.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder why they're missing the boat on this.
Well, it's been that way for a little while. I mean, when
that's crazy.
When the core what is it, when the i7s, i5s, i3s, i7s came out, ever since then, and we're on the third or fourth generation now.
Mm-hmm. Fourth generation.
Right, fourth generation now. Ever since those processors came out, nothing AMD has thrown out there even competed. I mean, they were no competition. Intel went so far ahead of the game that they left AMD in the dust, and this has been a good 5-6 years running.
Not to date myself, but I really remember the day where Athlon was,
Oh well, yeah. If you were going to build your own system, especially AMD Athlon.
Oh, a dual core Athlon with the X64. What was
that? Was the processor to get. That was the one.
Was it the FX64? What was that?
No, I think it was a little before that. It was a little before that.
But Athlon, that was it.
That was the processor to get, but like I said, for about the past 5 or 6 years, I think Intel's just been so far ahead of the game. It's they left AMD in the dust.
Yeah, unfortunately, of course, there's nothing wrong with competition because they make some nice mobile processors, but and which we're going to actually talk about a machine with one of their mobile processors, but they've certainly not been working on the battery life, and that's in the mobile. That's the name of the game, man.
Yeah, that is the name of the game.
Is getting just as much bang for your buck as you can.
Mm-hmm.
So to move on, I'm going to go ahead and bring this up here. One last thing in the news, and we'll talk about this. And So the Microsoft Build conference, by the way, Microsoft really consolidated a number of conferences. Because they used to have one for developers, and they just had a bunch of different conferences. Now they're kind of consolidating all that stuff. Build is a major conference. According to Windows IT Pro, Build 2013, big applause for Windows 8.1, but questions about Windows Phone and Xbox One remain. The big no-shows at this year's Build, Windows Phone and Xbox One. There are no shows. Microsoft's not talking about Windows Phone. They're not talking about the updates to Windows Phone. Where is Windows Phone? Where was Windows Phone 8 Blue? Windows Phone 8.1. What's the status on that?
Well, I think we talked a little bit about their acquisition of Nokia, or possible acquisition of Nokia. I think that may be what they're waiting on before they really even step forward with that. That's just my opinion. That would be the smart thing to do, is hold off, don't even say anything about it until this is final or it's not final. As far as Windows 8.1, I have not. I hadn't seen anything in the wild yet. I've read a little bit about it, but I've yet to see anything in the wild. So until I do and I get my hands on something, I'm not really going to give much of an opinion. But from what I've read, the biggest disappointment to me was they brought back the start button, kind of, but not really.
No.
They didn't bring back the start menu. They brought back
there is a menu button. Though, when you right click on
there is a menu, but it's not the same. No. It's not what it was. And I think that's the biggest. I think they got confused about what people actually wanted. People were not frightened because the start button went missing. People were angry because the way they had used a computer since 1995 was gone. That's why people were angry. And I don't really think this is going to do much to appease those people.
I will tell you, here's what I'm looking forward to, though. I do like you. There's one cool thing Microsoft's doing right. And and you got to give credit where credit's due. Now, the Windows Store. The Windows Store is a whole lot better, especially, well, I should say that the new version that's rolling out is a vast improvement over what Apple's doing. Look, the App Store, which I think most people kind of get confused between apps for sale in iTunes Store and then the Apple Store and the App Store for Mac. That's kind of nutty how they have those as two separate deals to begin with.
Right.
But more importantly, the App Store does not know everything I've got installed on my computer. Only what I've bought through the App Store will it offer to push out updates and that kind of thing. Whereas the Windows 8 or the Windows Store does. It helps me keep things updated that way. So it's a much more intelligent and better way of doing it. Now, I'm not saying that it's altogether better in Windows 8 land, but that is certainly a vast improvement. I like that a lot, and I'm hoping.
I think only time will tell. It's with Microsoft.
There should be one. Apple should have one app store. Period.
No, I agree with you. I agree with you as far as that goes. But I think as far as the Windows experience being better or worse or whatever, I think really only time will tell.
Well, I'm just talking about the store.
New.
I'm just talking about the store, not the whole shebang.
Now, I think they're relatively new to this game. As far as the whole app store goes, or the app market, or whatever you want to call it, I think they're relatively new to this game, and they're late to the game. So it's kind of, in my opinion, it's harder for them to get established with this, but it should be easier for them to turn out a quality product because they're able to look back and say, okay, look how Apple screwed up. Let's not do it that way.
I got to give, I think that Microsoft got pushed in pretty hard, because Apple's been on this annual upgrade deal now.
Right.
And because, we're going to see Mavericks roll out here this fall.
I'm not happy with that, by the way, but you're correct.
Okay. But we're going to see Mavericks roll out this fall, and Microsoft is going to be pushing out Windows 8.1. Comes out this fall. And it's not a service pack, folks. Windows 8.1 is an apology.
You're absolutely right.
It is a half-hearted apology, but does address some real issues and does bring some new functionality to Windows 8. I think just like how Microsoft's always done, every other release is a really good one. They're working fast and furious on version 9. You know they are,
Right.
Windows 9, and it will address a lot of the issues that people have. In some ways, Microsoft is a victim of its own success.
Mm-hmm.
They just really are. But getting back to this, why, Microsoft's saying, look, we can rapidly update Windows 8. Yay. And the people with Windows Phone 8 are going, where are you? Why? The silence is deafening.
Yeah, did you pull everybody off of...
Yeah, the Xbox
right.
Xbox One developer kit platform. Where is it?
Right.
People are waiting. Where's the development platform? You're shipping this thing in a few more months. We need the
It
tool.
seems like they pulled everybody off these other projects and put them on the Windows 8.1.
They put them on the 8. So what are they going to do? Ignore Xbox?
Oh, they can't ignore
No,
Xbox.
they can't. Are they going to ignore Windows Phone 8?
Well, that's debatable.
I don't even know. I don't even know if I hate to put it this way, but I really wonder. I really wonder if Windows 8 or Windows Phone 8 has a future. I mean, the market share is still like 2.2, 2.3%. It's just not going anywhere.
I see it being the same future as BlackBerry's future.
I think it's going to go the same way as Zune. I just do. I think that Microsoft's eventually going to give up the ghost on the mobile phone space.
This is an Android and iOS world. It just is, and I don't think.
And if they bought Nokia, if Microsoft were to buy Nokia, that would be a waste of billions of dollars.
Right. Well, unless they could turn out, and I don't see this happening, but unless they could turn out something just so utterly amazing and revolutionary that it would put the iPhone and the Samsung devices of the world to shame, I don't see it happening. I think you're right.
It's an Android world, man. It really is. I mean, and I've had this conversation with other people because I happen to like iOS. Mm-hmm. But there's a number of people abandoning iOS because Apple sticks to an annual update. There's not the latest, greatest phone coming out every 2 weeks like there is in the Android world.
Right.
It is a walled garden and not as wide open as, it's more difficult. You can root a phone, an Android phone.
Of course, there are 10 people out there that do that, but go ahead.
I know a couple.
I do too, but like I said, they're few and far between,
12.
I think. There's 12. Okay, I'll give you that.
I used to have a running joke with my stepson about Opera, the web browser.
Right.
And every time they got a new user, they had a version update. He gets so mad at me.
You know anyone that uses Opera?
No. And they packed it in, didn't they?
I have no idea. I don't. That's how much I know about it. But as far as Android, as far as Android and the popularity of Android, Android is in my opinion, Android is as popular as it is for one reason. One, there are multiple phone manufacturers. There's only one that makes an iOS device. Two, they give the phones away virtually for free most of the time. About 85 to 90% of them are given away for free when you walk into the big box store, the AT&T, the Verizon stores, and they're giving these Android phones away. That, in my opinion, that is the number one reason for the popularity. And you can't fairly compare the popularity of iOS and the popularity of Android because you have hundreds of manufacturers over here literally making Android devices by the billions, and you have one manufacturer turning out an iPhone. And to compare the two in terms of popularity when you have that type of disparity, that's not fair. That's not even, but if you look at the numbers as to who is online more and who is actually using the operating system for what it's intended to be, which is a smartphone operating system, the numbers of iOS dwarf the numbers of Android. So take that ever how you want it.
I'm just kind of find some of the comments on this article. This was in the Windows IT Pro magazine. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of humorous. People are going, Windows 8 is so, great. We don't understand what the problem is with Windows Phone getting traction.
Right.
Other people are going, oh yeah, well, it's starting to get traction. But I think the funniest one is about how Steve Jobs told us what we want. See, Google, the Android is not telling us what we want.
Oh yeah, you got to be told what you really want.
Okay. Like Apple tells us what we want.
Right.
Okay. And so there's only so many people like us out there in the world that need to be told what we want.
Well, I mean, honestly, let's look at that for a second. That's a really good statement right there. Um, you have when you okay when you're a tech company, okay, or when you are an Apple or a Microsoft, okay, you can listen to what the people say that they want. Okay, you can listen to what they say they want, but what they say they want and what they actually need sometimes can be two very different things. Okay, I think the difference between the way Apple goes about this and the way other tech companies such as Android or Google or whatever go about this is, instead of listening to what every individual person says that they want and then trying to be all things to everybody, what Apple does is say, okay, how do people really go about using these devices? And let's go from there and let's put these features in there. Most of the people that are going to use it don't even know how bad they want this feature until they use it, and then they're going to love it. And that approach, I can't argue with it. It's worked for them so far.
I think we're going to wrap that segment up on that note. So, I thought we would cover a little bit about Skype today in this next segment. And the reason is most people are familiar with Skype. I would say the bulk of computer users at least heard of Skype or use it regularly. But what I think most people don't know, there's two Skypes out there. There's one for everyday people, and then there's a business version of Skype. Did you know that, Jack? There's actually
until I seen the show notes, I did not know.
A lot of people don't know there's a difference. Let's start talking about using Skype in your business, and I'll just bring up this website right here. So here's the deal. Skype they've known for a long time that that their service is being used as what I call the poor man's PBX, the poor man's phone system. Mm-hmm. And especially with a lot of virtual workers and people out there are using Skype to make phone calls and to video chat and to instant message each other back and forth, send files back and forth, really doing things, that Skype wasn't always necessarily designed to do, but it does it. But at its heart and soul, it is a communications program for video and audio, for voice calls and for video calls. So if businesses were using this, why not put together something more business oriented, okay? And there's actually a website right here about Skype, using Skype in your business, and there's actually people at Skype you can talk to about some of the things. Now, feature-wise, Skype for Business does offer a few more things than the traditional Skype client. And here's what it is. One of them being the ability to send large files. The main difference between the business version is that it comes with a Windows installer package or an MSI. So that is something you can deploy across the network, let's say, automatically. If you were using a product like Vanguard, I could silently deploy this installer package out to the network and install Skype ready to go on everybody's machine. So that's one thing. The business version also informs you of great offers from Skype. It still does. But as I said, it has your group videos, send large files. So it is a little bit different when you go to download the Skype for Business edition. Not tremendously, but there is a difference there. Here's the other thing, and I'm going to kind of show people this on the screen. This is the Skype manager. Because, again, there is two Skypes, the business and the personal. You're actually looking on my screen at a Skype business account, and I can control the features of my users. I can add and remove subscriptions such as outbound calling, voicemail, inbound phone number, all that information I can control for my employees right here in this control panel. Plus, I can buy and trade and transfer Skype credits to employees or associates that way. And it actually gives me a list. I'll try to scroll up here. It actually gives me a list of features, like how many members have Skype credit, how many, if I want to set up Skype Premium, which Skype Premium, by the way, is used for the group calling, where you can have multiple people on a video call. That requires Skype Premium. Well, I can set that up. I can set up call forwarding for my members. We can set up caller ID. So like I have caller ID set up on Skype. That's my cell phone. So it will look like I'm calling from a cell phone, but I'm actually making an outbound dial through Skype. Kind of interesting. So that way if somebody calls back, they would call me back on my cell phone rather than Skype. Or, because if you don't have caller ID on Skype, they use all kinds of weird stuff that the person with caller ID would see. So you avoid all that kind of thing on there as well. So this is really a handy dandy way to set up your virtual employees with phone access, is to use the Skype manager and set up as an account with that. And then, as I said, you can add and remove people on here. And if I go to the dashboard, I can just click on members, and then it tells me all the various people on there, what their Skype username is, what group they belong to. I have all that. And if I can drill down into a member here, we'll drill into this one, bring it up here, and then I can see at a glance, I can see that the guy, like for example, call forwarding needs to be set up on this one. I can set up caller ID. They've got unlimited U.S., Canada calling on there. Auto recharge is off, but I can go in there and recharge it if I want to, or I can set the auto recharge, all that, so it's right on there. That is a very cool feature, and I don't believe a lot of people is really aware of this. I just don't. So I wanted to share that with the members of the audience. Will this replace a PBX or phone switch? No. You can transfer calls amongst one another. I would not really use Skype in that method. It's great. We use it for outbound calling campaigns and that kind of thing. This does not replace a phone system, even a virtual one, because with extensions and all the features, it doesn't have all the features that a PBX is. In fact, I want to do a show talking about virtual phone systems, because it's really, really important. But it can get you started, or you can you give telephony to a virtual group out there, and you can do it really, really inexpensively. An outbound phone, making outbound phone calls, unlimited, U.S. and Canada, $3 a month. That's dirt cheap. I mean, that is really, really dirt cheap. The quality of the call, well, that's, I normally have good luck with Skype. Normally. There are times where the voices will go kind of silent on you. But for the most part, I think it's pretty decent. You can also get an inbound phone number as well. So I can have a phone number to give people to reach me. So like with the podcast, we could actually, if we had somebody that didn't have Skype, I mean, they just, all they had was a phone, how would I get them on the show? Well, I could just give them the Skype phone number. They'd call in and we would be talking, and there you have it. We could do that. So we can take inbound calls, outbound calls. I can transfer a call from me to somebody else within Skype. But as I said, it's not a replacement for a PBX, but it will get you started. Or as I said, you can temporarily empower somebody with all these features, including setting up with voicemail, that kind of thing. They don't have 911 service, so this is not really designed to be a replacement for a home phone, but I think more to supplement it, to have that extra line capability so you're not tying up there. But I just wanted to make sure people knew that there was actually a business version of Skype, and right here it is. And again, I can do credit allocations. You basically have what's called the Skype Manager. The Skype Manager, that's where all the action is. I can add members, change members, add credits, take away credits, set up their voicemail, their Skype phone numbers, call forwarding, those features. And then I can also come in here and get reports. There's also a reporting module on here. I'll pull that up here and see what's happening on that. And there we go. I can click on usage, and I can actually see who's calling what, how long they were on the phone, what the duration was. It's all right there. Pretty slick. I kind of like that. I really do like that. I think that's a handy thing to use for a business. Again, most people, I don't think, are that familiar with it. They don't even know it's there, but it is. So just thought I would bring that up. And then I thought we would. Did you see my hardware pick of the week, Jack?
I did. Briefly.
Okay, so let me explain what's going on here. Occasionally, I'll run across a piece of hardware that I think represents decent value for the money.
Mm-hmm.
There was something about this particular machine that struck my eye. And I'm going to go ahead and bring this up here on screen. And this is the MSI. This is the GX60 laptop. And this is a $1,300 laptop. And it is a gaming laptop. Now, even though I'm not a big PC gamer, I'm a casual gamer and tend to mess around with my Xbox a lot. It also comes with the Radeon 7970 Eyefinity. Multiple displays. I can hook up, 3 different external displays to this laptop.
I have to admit the specs on this laptop are impressive for the price.
There's a really impressive for the price. $1,300. Here's what you're getting. Now, you are not getting an Intel processor on this. You are getting the AMD A10, which is a Trinity, which is a quad-core processor. And it comes with the an integrated GPU, which is the Radeon, what is that, the 7970.
Right, so 7970 mobile. It's a 2 gig
So basically,
DDR5.
you got like 2 chips on the controller there. One is the CPU and the other is the GPU.
Right.
Okay, 4 cores. 4 cores. Runs, I believe, at 2.5 gigahertz, but can ratchet up, I think, to like 3.4 gigahertz. I would maybe I'll find that on the spec sheet here in a minute. Comes with a Blu-ray player, a 15.6 inch 1920 by 1080 display, which is cool. So it's 1080p display on here. A gaming keyboard is built in. Backlit gaming keyboard. What they call audio boost technology, I guess. They coat some things in gold, and then they have an internal audio amplifier. Anti-glare screen. Blu-ray, as I said. Comes with HDMI. It's got mini DisplayPort, HDMI outputs as well. All there. I don't know, 720p built-in webcam. All for $1,299. Now, here's the thing. For $100 more, you can get a 17-inch version of the same machine.
That's not bad at all for $100.
Now, it comes with 8 gigs of memory. Let's go to the specs on this. This is
what is it? Do you know what it maxes out on the memory? I know it comes standard with 8 gigs.
And that's, it has 1 memory slot.
Oh.
Okay. That is the downside. Yeah.
That's a very limiting factor.
It is a limiting factor. To my understanding, this machine only comes with 1 free memory, one memory slot.
Nah, that right there is, that's going to be a...
Well, yeah, but we say, look what we talk about with the MacBook Pro.
Well, it's a different type of system for a different thing.
I understand.
If you're looking at a gaming system, if you're looking at a MacBook Pro, that's one thing. If you're looking at a gaming system, I really don't think, especially with today's specs, 1 RAM slot that's maxed out at 8 gigs. I mean, I don't think that's I really think it should be able. You should
I
be able to bump it up to at least 16 gigs.
to my understanding, looking at the max memory on this machine is 8 gigs, one memory slot. Now, if somebody says, "Hey, Bruce, you're wrong," I'll be happy to retract that. But that's
I mean, even if you could max it out at 16 and one RAM slot, do you know how expensive that DIMM's going to be? So
pretty
yeah,
expensive.
that is definitely a drawback
Well,
right
you know
there.
what?
But
Here's what I was thinking. Here's what I was thinking about this machine. This could make, with the iFinity, this could make a nice little desktop replacement machine for the casual, PC gamer.
for the casual PC gamer, this is a great deal. I think great deal.
I really do.
Good specs. It looks like I said, it looks like solid specs. I would go ahead and opt for the 17-inch display.
I would pay
But
the
yeah,
$100
that's great.
more. I would pay the $100 more for it. I like this. Where AMD spent the money on this machine was clearly the Radeon 7970 mobile GPU, big time. 2 gigs
Right.
of 2 gigs of memory in that GPU on this machine. 8 gigs of DDR3, 1600 megahertz memory. So it's pretty fast. It's pretty fast.
Right.
Not
like I said,
not an
just
SSD
what-
drive, not an SSD drive, 750 gig hard drive. Although you could obviously replace that, quite sure, with an SSD.
Well, if they put an SSD in there, the price would go up exponentially. They can't do that. I mean,
It's
you'd be
got
looking at
all the
extra
usual
for-
suspects. You have your 7-in-1 card reader. It comes with I believe 3 USB 3 ports on it as well. Good old basic black machine. I think it represents a pretty good value for the money. 2-year warranty. Yeah, three USB 3.0 ports and 1 USB 2.0 port. Comes with HDMI output. And it said mini DVI or mini display port rather with it as well. Audio boost, wireless and networking. MSI actually is a very popular builder of gaming laptops and laptops.
Them and Asus seem to be.
You see, apparently a lot of people. And what also interests me was that MSI, when you go to their website, you can't actually buy one direct from them. You actually have to go through a reseller like Newegg and Fry's and Best Buy.
So is this going to be your next? Is this going to be your next system, Bruce?
No.
I didn't think so.
But I liked it. But my thinking was, for some people, this could make a pretty nice little desktop replacement.
Right. The only two things I see wrong with this system, honestly, the price is the biggest thing they got right with this. But the only two things I really see wrong with it is the fact that it only comes with 8 gigs of DDR3, and you're not really going to be able to upgrade that. And the fact that it comes with Windows 8. You get
Well,
this
you
machine.
can't. Yeah, I can't fault them.
No, I mean, get this machine and install Windows 7 on it, and I think it'd be a great deal. Get your 17-inch version, go ahead and drop the extra $100, wipe it, and put Windows 7 on it if the drivers are supported, and I think you would have a really good system for the money.
Let's take a look here. I'm going to just check on this one memory slot thing. I'm looking at Tom's Hardware. Somebody's asking a question. Should I get the Acer G55? I'll just bring this up. Should I get the Acer G55 VW or the MSI G60? Now, when was this? This was just last March, so we are talking about the same machine. Okay, somebody says, help. I'm shopping for a $1,200 price range. I'm down to 2 machines, both monsters in their own right. I need dual-purpose machines, blah, blah, blah. And it goes on to ask what should they get. And the responses come back saying the Asus is better. The i7 is designed for a third core, or I guess the i7 is designed to handle gaming better, etc. You'd be, let's see, I wanted to say something about the memory. $1,200 GX60 is an impressive piece of hardware except for the A10. People don't seem to like the CPU.
Well, let's be honest here. Your hardcore gamers these days are always going to go for the the i7s. That's how it is. I mean, when you're talking about the best of everything, it's always going to be about the Intel product now. And still, um, AMD is coming out with newer products and better products every day. They're still not really competitive in that market. So of course they're going to say that, but I don't think this particular machine is for the hardcore gamer. It's for more of your casual gamer, and I think along those lines, I think that CPU would be more than adequate for your casual gamer.
Here's something about the memory. Can I bring the MSI up to 32 gigs of RAM, even though they say max 16? I did not see that on easily. So is that a configurable from MSI max or a hardware chip limit max? Seems to be a system maximum of 16 gigs. I understand it has one memory slot though. Let's take a look here. Somebody else says, I have that machine. I love it. I'm pretty sure the answer to this is no. There are only 2 RAM slots. No, okay. There are 2 RAM slots that I can utilize, 8 gigs DDR. So there you have it. There's 2 RAM slots apparently on this the MSI GX60 instead of
Okay,
1.
there are 2 RAM slots. So
I did read before, as I was researching this machine, I read somebody else said it had 1 RAM slot.
Uh-huh.
So apparently it has 2.
So if it has 2, is it maxed out at 8 gigs, or will they accept
No, 16.
2 8 gig DIMMs? Okay, 2 8 gig DIMMs, so you're maxed at 16. Well, that's still, I mean, when you consider the price, if you wanted to go ahead and max out the RAM, I still think it's a great price.
I agree. I think it's a great price.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I had read that it was only had one memory slot, and I'm not.
That's kind of odd for a notebook to only have 1 RAM slot these days.
Yeah, because that used to be more common back in the day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but ever since say 2002,
I thought it was odd too, but
odd.
well, there you have it. Okay, so 2 memory slots. Apparently, 16 gigs of RAM is supported on the machine.
There you go.
$12.99, $13.99 for the 17-inch of this. Now, bear in mind, this is running an AMD processor and not Intel Core 7 or Intel i7 quad-core mobile processor. It is running, but that AMD chip, because here's the thing: if you buy it for gaming, don't most gamers, aren't they willing to sacrifice a little bit on the CPU for graphics?
I think so. I think most because if you look at what I mean, that's where your gaming is coming from. That's going to be what the load is going to be on is on your GPU. If you're looking at CPU intensive tasks, you're looking at video editing and things like that. It's a completely different world.
Well, I think this is an example of the kind of machine. If you if it can support 16 gigs of memory, if you replace the 750 gig internal hard drive with an SSD.
And bump the screen up to 17 inches.
Okay. This could be a wicked little desktop replacement machine
for under $2,000.
For under $2,000, and you could have up to 3 external displays all running in Infinity. So you could do some pretty good gaming with it. Plus, it's going to be a decent little desktop machine.
I agree.
I think so. This is going to be I would recommend people maybe look at something like this. I happen to like it. I wanted to share it with people on the show. And I think that's pretty much going to wrap up what I have to talk about today on Business Computing Weekly. Anything you want to add?
Yeah, as a matter of fact.
All right. Feel free.
Well, I know I've done several videos in the past about what I thought about the iPad, and that I would probably never buy an iPad, and I just wanted to let everybody see my newest acquisition here, which I didn't pay for this. I did not go out and buy an iPad. I was given an iPad. It's a second gen 32 gig, and my opinion after having used it for a week solid is unchanged. I still don't think it is a real productivity device. I still look at it as a media consumption device, although it is fine for note taking and such. but it is most definitely a media consumption device, and this device sees most of its use right before I go to bed when I'm laying in bed and I want to catch up on my RSS feeds or take notes for a video that I want to do or something like that. That's where it gets most of its use. Like I said, if it was up to me, I still would not have purchased. I think this machine is going for around $400 on the Apple Refurb store right now, and I would never pay $400 for this particular device. But since it was given to me, hey, you can't argue with that. It was my birthday, so
Yeah, well, hey, okay. Now let me tell you something I seen here a while back that was kind of interesting to me.
hmm
I was at a car dealership in Fort Wayne. Salesman come out. He's got an iPad with him.
okay,
All right. We got to talking about different cars. These are German cars. That's all I'll say. I don't want to give it away too much, but we got to talking about different cars, and he would ask, well, what color do you like? And he open the tap in the iPad, etc. And he would know exactly where that car was right here. Hey, look, I got this car, this car, this car. I had the prices, all that kind of stuff, right there on his iPad. What makes the iPad a productivity tool is the software.
right,
Okay, and there are when companies have custom apps written to make good use, extensive use of the iPad. That's where it gets to be real handy.
and it is getting better.
We
It
don't
is getting
see
better.
that we don't really see that on the stuff you're getting out of the App Store per se.
Right, right.
Microsoft has their CRM application. Here's something that kind of really makes me angry is, Microsoft just released a version of Office for the iPhone. Nothing is being said about the iPad. Okay.
Well, there's a reason for that.
Oh, sure. They don't want anything to screw up the sale of the Surface tablets.
Right,
They see the iPad. Why bother with the iPhone then?
right.
Why not make it exclusive to Windows
Honestly,
Phone?
I think it's a backup plan. I think they have right now they probably have no intention of bringing it to the iPad because of they're waiting to see what happens with the Surface, and not if, but when the Surface goes belly up, and I believe it most definitely will. I believe within 6 months to a year after that, they will come out with a version for the iPad, or a scaled up version from the iPhone to the iPad. There's no doubt in my mind they will, because they're missing out on an absolutely huge section of the market.
Right.
And I think they may not want to, but they won't have a choice. The money will just be too good. So
There you go. Well, I think on that note, we're going to wrap up this week's edition of Business Computing Weekly. Thank you for joining Jack and I, and we always appreciate your comments, your thumbs up on these videos. Plus one them, share them. You know what to do. Everybody have a great week. Remember, it's in your shop, not making any money, saving you money. Get it out of there. We'll talk to you later.